There is probably something you have been thinking about starting, and maybe it's a business, a YouTube channel, a consulting offer, a creative project, or still a secret that you haven't even shared with anybody yet. You've thought about it enough to know that idea is not going away. But instead of starting, you keep bringing the idea back to the same person for approval. That person is your inner critic. You explain the idea to her, you show her the plan, you try to convince her that you have enough experience, and you remind her that other people have started with less. Every time she comes back to you with another concern, you're not ready yet. You need to learn more. Someone else is already doing that. You don't have enough time. What if nobody even cares? What if people think this is ridiculous? What if you put yourself out there and it doesn't work? So you go back to planning. You research another platform, you adjust the name, you rethink the format, you watch someone else explain how they did it, and you tell yourself you're not making any progress. At some point, planning becomes a socially acceptable way to stall on starting. Today on Second Act Simplified, we are talking about why you have to stop asking your inner critic for permission to launch your next big project. I'm Jamie, and each week we focus on a topic to help you make the most of your next chapter. The secret to starting your next chapter is not creating a perfectly polished plan. It's being willing to begin before you feel even remotely ready. You have to have the courage to be a little messy in public. You need to shift your attention away from perfection and towards momentum. Your inner critic is not a neutral advisor. We assume that if she has concerns, we should stop and investigate them. Sometimes that is very helpful. We do need judgment. We do need to think through all the risks. We should not be impulsive on every decision. But your inner critic is not evaluating your idea objectively. Her primary job is not to help you grow. Her job is to keep you safe. And what does safe mean for most of us? It's usually that safe is familiar. She prefers the job you already know, the routine you already have down to a science, and the version of you that other people already understand, even when that version of your life no longer fits your goals. Your inner critic is an invisible gatekeeper who was never planning to open the gate. She's not waiting for you to produce a slightly better business plan. She is waiting for all the uncertainty to disappear. That's just not going to happen. There will always be something you can't predict. You can't know exactly how people will respond. You can't know whether the project will grow. How long is it really going to take? You cannot know which part will work and which part is going to need change. If you're waiting for your inner gatekeeper to say, everything looks safe, you're okay to proceed, you might just spend years standing at the gate. The green light you are waiting for may never come because the brain is doing what the brain is supposed to do. It's trying to protect you from uncertainty, embarrassment, rejection, and change. You do not have to get rid of that voice. You have to stop giving it final authority. Starting something in midlife can feel very different from starting when you were younger. When you're young, people expect experimentation. You're allowed to try jobs, change directions, move, fail, start over, figure things out as you go. But by midlife, many of us believe we are supposed to have this all figured out. We have spent years building a career and a reputation. We have people depending on us financially and or emotionally. Our schedules are full. Our lives are very structured. We have more experience, but we have more to protect. That can make a new idea feel so much bigger than it really is. Posting one video does not feel like you're just going to post the video. It feels like announcing to everybody in the world you now believe you're a proper YouTuber. Offering one consulting service doesn't feel like an experiment. It feels like you're attaching your professional reputation to something that might not even work. Writing that first chapter does not feel like I just wrote a chapter. It feels like you were telling the world, I've become an author. These actions might be small, but the meaning that we attach to it feels enormous. This is one of the reasons we wait for validation. We want somebody to tell us this idea is good enough before we risk even trying it. We want a friend, a spouse, a mentor, maybe even an expert to give us some kind of guarantee. But nobody else is going to be able to guarantee that outcome either. They may encourage you. They may support you. They may even tell you this is a brilliant idea, but nobody can remove the uncertainty that comes with beginning. At some point, you have to act without the guarantee. Many women spend years waiting for permission without realizing this is what they're doing. We call it research and preparation. We may say, we're just waiting for the right time. But underneath all that, we are often waiting for something that makes the decision official. We want to be chosen. We want someone to invite us. We want a credential or a person in authority to tell us that we belong in that room. That makes sense because most of us have spent our life working inside systems where your advancement comes through approval. You applied for that position, someone interviewed you and decided if you were going to be qualified enough for it. Someone promoted you. Someone did a performance evaluation on you. When you build something of your own, that entire structure disappears. There's no more applying. There's no hiring manager. There's no formal invitation to join and come and be a part of this. You have to decide that you are allowed to begin. That is so uncomfortable because you are no longer waiting to be selected. You're selecting yourself. Selecting yourself might feel arrogant when you were used to proving your value before somebody else gives you permission to take that space. But starting a project does not mean that you're declaring you're the world's leading expert. It means you're willing to contribute and learn. You're willing to put something into the world and see what happens. You don't need permission to run an experiment, and you would never tell your kids you need permission to run an experiment. Well, you might because you don't want them to make a mess, but you know what I mean. In general, we give people permission to experiment. So stop asking for approval and start collecting the data. One of the most useful shifts you can make is to stop asking your thoughts to predict the future. Your inner critic has no idea whether this project's going to work. You don't know either. The only way to find out is to create something and then let reality respond. You need external data, not endless internal debate. Suppose you're thinking about starting a podcast. Your inner critic can spend 6 months asking whether anyone will listen. Or you can record 3 episodes, publish them, and begin collecting actual information. Which topics were easier to talk about? Did anybody respond? Did you enjoy the process enough to keep going? What felt natural? What already needs improvement? You can't answer any of those questions by thinking harder. You answer them by producing something. Maybe you are considering a service or a small business. You can spend a year trying to decide whether people would pay for it. Or you can clearly describe the service, offer it to a small group, and see what questions people ask. Did they understand your offer? Does the problem matter enough to them? What part are they willing to pay for? What language seems to get their attention? That information is more valuable than another month spent adjusting your logo. Momentum creates evidence, and evidence builds confidence. Most people believe they need confidence before they act, but really, that confidence appears after you've taken enough steps to prove that you can handle what's going to come next. Your first version is not your final identity. Another reason people hesitate to launch is that they assume the first version is going to define them forever. It will not. I launched my website 2 years ago, and so many things have changed then. I've switched topics, I've added topics, I've refined topics. I've also started the podcast in the last 8 months now. Your first episodes will not sound like your 40th episodes, and I'm really happy to announce that this is my 40th episode. Your first offer will not be your final offer. Your first video will not represent the full potential of your channel. The first draft will not be the finished book. The first version has one job. It just needs to exist. Once it exists, you can respond to it, improve the message, change the format, adjust the audience. You can decide that one part works and another part doesn't, but you can't improve something if it's stuck in your head. The first version is not a permanent commitment. It's just the starting point. We treat launching as though we are carving a decision right into stone. Most of the time, we are publishing a page that can just be edited. We are recording an episode that will eventually be surrounded by better episodes. I can tell the difference between my first episode and this episode. We are trying an idea that may lead us to a stronger idea. You're not marrying the first version. You are meeting it. Okay, let's talk about being messy in public because it's a phrase that sounds terrifying. Being messy in public doesn't mean you're careless and look like a mess. It does not mean releasing work you know is misleading, irresponsible, or incomplete. It just means accepting that your work will be seen while you're still in a learning phase. It means that your lighting may not be perfect. Your website is probably going to be simple. You may stumble over a sentence. You may discover that you need a different system. Other people may watch and end up seeing you improve over time. That isn't a failure. That is what building something looks like. We have been trained to see the polished result without seeing the awkward beginning. Think about a podcast that you found, and they've probably recorded 200 episodes already, and you discovered a business after the owner has refined the offer for 5 years or longer. You see the author promoting the book, not starting at the awful first draft where they wanted to rip their hair out. Then you compare the established results with your unfinished beginning. So of course you feel behind. But you're not behind. You're standing at a different point in the process than what you're seeing in front of you. The only way to move forward is to allow the stage to look like an early stage. You need to give your inner critic a smaller job. You don't have to fight your inner critic all day long. You just give her a smaller, more useful job. She doesn't get to decide where you begin, but she can help you review what you created after you begin. She can ask whether the message is clear. She can point out practical risk. She can help you edit the second version, but she does not get to cancel the entire project because the first version wasn't perfect. Think of her as an editor, not the executive. An editor improves the work. An executive has the power to shut everything down. Your inner critic has been in the executive chair or the driver's seat for far too long, and it's time to move her on to another department. Here is what I want you to do instead of waiting for permission. First, name the project clearly. Don't say, I want to do something creative. Say, I want to start a weekly newsletter for women considering a career change. Don't say, I might start a business. Say, I want to offer one-on-one organizing sessions to busy families in my area. A vague idea is almost impossible to act on. A specific idea creates a next step. All right, second, define the smallest version you can release. Not a full business, not an entire brand launch, or a perfect 10-week program. What is the smallest increment that can get another person to respond? That could just be the one video, one article, one workshop, one product, a conversation with a potential partner. Then you need to give it a deadline. This is point 3. Give it a deadline, not when it is ready. Choose a date. The deadline is not there to create panic. It is there to prevent perfectionism from disguising itself as preparation. Fourth, decide what you want to learn. Your first launch does not need to prove that the entire idea will succeed. It needs to answer a useful question. Did people understand the message? Did anybody respond? Did you enjoy creating it? What part felt difficult? What would you change? What did someone ask for you to do next? This is the kind of data you need. I want to make a disclaimer here. If you're doing something online, it may take a long time to get the data that you're looking for. In most cases, people are not going to find you overnight. It takes months, maybe even years, before you have enough data available online for people to start to find you. View some of this as a long game. You may not get all the data points that you want right away, but you will start collecting data. And some of the most valuable data is the data that you get from yourself. Fifth, decide your next move before your inner critic reviews the result. So this is important. Do not publish one thing, stare at the numbers for 24 hours, and decide your entire future. Just commit to some small steps or some small bodies of work. Maybe you publish 5 videos before evaluating the channel. Maybe you send 8 newsletters, offer some introductory sessions, record 6 episodes. One attempt just gives you emotion. Several attempts starts to give you information. What should you do this week? I want you to think about the project you keep revisiting, the one you research when you have a free evening, the one that you keep imagining yourself doing in your dreams, the one that keeps you moving to a future season when you expect to feel more confident, prepared, and less busy, which we know isn't going to happen. What would a small version of that project look like? Not a fantasy version. Not the version with a large audience, a full website, a professional studio, and a complete product line. What could you create and release within the next several days? Could you record just an episode, post one video, create an outline for a workshop, send an email, describe a service, start to write in an evening, share an idea with 3 potential customers? Your assignment is to create evidence that you are no longer waiting to start your dream. Every time you act, you weaken the belief that you need permission. Every time you publish, offer, ask, create, you become someone who's moving before all the doubt has disappeared. That is how you get momentum truly. Your inner critic may never approve the idea. She still might have some concerns after you publish. She may remind you that someone else is more experienced, more polished, younger, connected, or further ahead than you are. Let her talk. You don't have to argue with every thought. You don't need to convince yourself that success is guaranteed. You only have to decide that uncertainty is no longer a good enough reason to remain still. Your next chapter will not begin when you finally feel fearless. It begins when you stop asking fear to sign a permission slip. Choose the project, make a version that is very small, put a date on it, release it, then let the real world give you information that your inner critic never could give you. You need one honest next step, and take that step this week. If you are ready to do more than think about your next chapter, make sure you're on my email list. I am developing a 6-week private podcast experience for busy women who know they're ready for more but need help turning that feeling into a clear next step. It will be designed to fit into real life with private podcast episodes, practical guidance, and simple actions that you can take each week without adding another overwhelming commitment to your schedule. Email subscribers will be the first to hear the details and have the first opportunity to join when it's ready. You can sign up through the link in the show notes or visit Our Daily Lifestyles to join the newsletter. Until next time, stop waiting for permission and take one step toward the thing you cannot stop thinking about.